All right, hello everybody. Thanks for checking out this video. Today I am joined by Jordan from Jordan Plays Blue. Hi, Jordan.
Hey, Jona, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. You do anything fun this weekend?
Um, well, I got to play D&D,
Nice.
and I got to rearrange my bathroom cabinet, so I
Okay.
felt very proud of myself for
I
that.
feel I feel like we did that at some point recently because I can find stuff now, which is great.
That's good. Yeah, my
Yeah.
husband told me he would start paying himself to do chores around the house that he doesn't like doing. So I have decided to pay myself for doing chores. So
I
yeah.
think that's great. I Whatever motivates you, I think that works.
Yeah. So anyway, now let's get back on
Excellent.
topic. So Jordan, I just want you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name's Jordan. I do stuff under the name Jordan Plays Blue, and I do stuff on some stuff on YouTube. I do more stuff on Instagram. Yeah, I do some stuff for the Dice Tower and Board Game Breakfast and some other stuff if they ever ask. I will more than oblige. I typically cover family weight games, games that can be played like under an hour. Yeah, so that's usually kind of my cup of tea, my bread and butter when it comes to games.
Nice. Well, very, very cool. So I'm really excited to finally talk to you about the games that we swapped. So
Yeah.
what we decided to do is Jordan gave me a list of some games he would recommend for me to try, and I gave him a list.
So I suggested to you one of my favorite games of all time, and I think the last time I made a top 10 games of all time, it was my favorite game of all time. So no pressure.
Whoa,
I don't
this is serious.
Which is I don't know if it still would be. I don't know. I haven't done that yet. But yeah, so that
Fair
was
enough.
Space Base
Yes.
by Phil Walker, or not Phil Walker Harding, John D. Clare.
John D. Clare.
Different three
I
name
don't even
person.
know.
John D. Clare. Yeah, he did what else did he do? Ecos, and he did Mystic Vale and those kind of card kind of games.
Oh, that's interesting. I recommended Manila for you to try.
Have it right here.
Yeah, I have my
Might be
copy here. I
backwards.
don't have a copy of Space Base on my end because I ended up borrowing it from a friend from Game Group.
That is a
And
very smart way to go about this.
I felt I was very fortunate. I would have been happy to buy it, and but it worked out that I could lend it out, or it was lent out to me, but I had to return it. So
That's great. I have a copy right here,
okay, cool.
so I
Yeah,
can point to it if you ever need to show somebody the side of
show
the
it.
box.
Okay,
I can do that right there.
it's there.
It exists. This game is real.
I think what would be great is if we explain to the viewers why we recommended the game we did for each other.
Okay, so I recommended Space Base to Jonna because I love Space Base, and I recommend it to a lot of people, and it's one of those games that if I am there to play it, I have never had it go poorly with a new group. It has a pretty low kind of rules overhead, but there's still some good depth that people can kind of see how the cards work together. It has and I have a buddy who really disagrees with me, but to me it has the same core engine as Settlers of Catan, where you roll dice and then you collect stuff, and everybody collects all the stuff whenever certain numbers are rolled. Everybody,
yeah, because you get to do it every turn.
everybody's involved on everybody's turn. You roll the dice, everybody collects the stuff, and I think it keeps people involved, and it also I don't know, feels familiar if you've played. And a lot at this point, a lot of people have played Catan, and so I can relate it to that when I'm teaching it. And I don't know, I've just never like I said before, I've never had it go poorly. And I will also say I hope somebody taught you, because the rule book is not very good.
Actually, someone did teach
Okay.
me.
The rule book is not very
Yeah.
good, which is something I probably should have thought about. But yeah, so that's why I
No, it was
recommended it to you,
fine.
because I think it's an excellent game that I've introduced it to so many people, and they don't all love it, but I think everybody has an enjoyable time, which I
Yeah.
think is usually the goal with a game.
Right. All right. Well, very cool. I did not know it was your top favorite game, at least like up to date. So I really appreciate that you shared that with me. And then
Yeah.
the game that I mean, Manila is a game that I enjoy sharing with everyone I can. Like I decided I wanted to buy it the first time I played it. We were like at the table. I was like, we need to find this game. I like it so much. And so I just wanted to share it with my family. I want to share it with my friends, whoever I have the opportunity. So when I was thinking about, well, I really want to find out what Jordan thinks about Manila because of the fun factor and the kind of it's not a very well-known game. So
Mm-hmm.
that was the other thing I kind of wanted to find out if you had played it and what you would think about it. Just to give an idea of what the games are like, I'll describe Manila a little bit, and
Okay.
then you can maybe just give a general idea of like what Space Base is about. So Manila is like a dice rolling game where you're putting little men out on boats, and the dice that are rolled will make the boats move up a track and eventually into port. And if your little man gets into port, you will get the points for that round. But it's much more complicated than that. There's also the little insurance spot. So you can put a little man on an insurance spot and you get $10 right off the bat. But if the boats don't make it into the port, they're going to end up in the shipyard, and then you have to pay the lost money for that round. So there's a couple other spots as well. There's the pirate spot. So if you pick that spot and the boat doesn't make it into port, gets stuck on the 13th spot, you get to take all the cargo. Overall, I think it's three. The dice is rolled 3 times until
I
it
think
gets
it's
into port.
after each kind of everybody takes a turn, then you roll the dice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because is there 4 guys or 3 guys?
I think it
However many guys.
depends on the players, I think.
Yeah, thank you. So then you're kind of watching the boats come in every time the dice are rolled, and you kind of have to reassess what's the best strategy as the round goes. And it really does feel a little bit like a casino game because you're basically placing bets with your little men as they come in. There's also a stock market aspect to it where the stocks, the cargo that's coming in on the boats, the stock prices of those cargoes that make it into the port will rise. So if you have some of that stock in your collection, you have little cards that you collect that symbolize the different stock, the different cargo. That will give you points as well, victory points
Mhm.
for the end. So you always want to try and get your cargo into port, and you do that by auctioning to be the harbor master at the beginning of each
Mhm.
round. So all of that said, it's an auction game, it's a push your luck game, and it's a like a bidding bluffing game. So
Mhm.
that's why I like it. It's a real mismatch of
Yeah.
push your luck and excitement. So
Yeah, when I was looking through the rules, it almost, and you look at the board, it almost looks like a worker placement game, but it's not at all, because you are putting people on the board, but you're not putting those people down to take an action.
right,
You're putting them down in hopes that something will come of it at the end of the round. So
right,
it
right.
is kind of almost like placing a bet. Or
Mhm.
like you're at like a roulette table and you put like, all in on black, or I'm going to put something in on this number. It almost kind of felt like that,
Mhm.
instead of it. When you look at the board, you think, oh, worker placement game, I'm going to go here, get this money, go here, this happens, but
Yeah.
it's not at
It's not.
all. Yeah.
Yeah, and often what will happen is you'll be like, "Well, I'm going to, put my little man on, the silk that's coming in." And then you realize the silk ship is not going to make it. So
Yeah.
you change your bet and then you either put your man on a new boat, or you just go with a different strategy. Like you can, what is it? If you put your man in the shipyard and a ship comes into there, you get money for that. So
Mhm.
you can also bet against the boats coming in.
You're also betting, hoping that some things fail at the
So
same
you can
time. So
switch halfway
yeah,
through.
I really could not think of another game to compare it to. It did feel, I don't know, it felt really unique to me.
Yeah, I think that's maybe why I like it, because I as well don't really know what else is quite like that. But give us a little rundown about Space Base. I can kind of chime in too. And
Yeah. So Space Base is a dice rolling game that it's a tableau building game that involves dice rolling. And so you're going to a tableau building game is a game in which you're going to have a tableau, which is not a word that I've ever used outside of board games, but it
right.
when you look it up, that is what it is. But it's like a kind of a row of cards, and those cards are kind of sort of an engine of sorts. And so as you're building this row of cards, you're going to be able to get different things throughout the game, and it's going to kind of your engine is kind of clicking along. The thing
Mm-hmm.
about Space Base is it's not a super efficient engine. It's not one of those engine building games where you get to like chain this that gives you this, then it gives you this, and you turn in this for this, and then you have like this 100-point turn and move on to the next one. It's kind of a it does ramp up as the game goes on, but it is kind of a more of a slow kind of burn, and there is a
Yeah.
lot of chance to it,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is interesting because I don't always like that much chance in my games. But in it, you're going to have a board, and the board is going to have these little kind of docks. You are a base in space
Right.
where
A
all
space
of these
base.
a space base where all of these ships dock, and they're numbered 1 through 12 because those are all of the possible sums of 2 dice being rolled. And so whoever's turn it is going to roll those dice, and there's going to be cards on each of those slots, and they're going to give you different things, maybe coins, maybe points, maybe income, which is the lowest amount of money you start with on your turn. And so whoever's turn it is rolls the dice, and they get the main cards that are on your board for whatever the dice are. So maybe you roll a 1 and a 5. You can
Mm-hmm.
either take the 6, which is the sum of the dice, your card that's in the 6 slot, or the cards that are in the 1 slot and the 5 slot. So sometimes one is better than the other. Sometimes they're the same. So you get to make that decision. But then everybody else around the table also gets to choose between the 6 and the 1 and the 5, but only for cards that are tucked underneath the top of
Tucked.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So whenever you upgrade a ship, you put a new ship down on there, you take that card and you tuck it under, and then it gives you a different ability. And so that's what you're using on other people's turns. And so you're getting, by the end of the game, you're probably getting something on every person's turn. And you're collecting money, you're collecting income, you're collecting points. There's not any resources that you're using. You're just kind of collecting those couple things. And as the game goes on, you're going to have one ship in all of those 1 through 12 slots, but there's also cards that you're tucking on the top. And so you might have 3 or 4 cards tucked along the top. So if Jonna rolls, a 1 and a 5, and I have
Mm-hmm.
4 cards tucked to my 5 slot and 2 cards tucked to my 1 slot, I get all of those. And so I'm getting like 6 coins here, 2 coins here, and a point, and and I get to do all of that stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And there's a couple other little wrinkles. Some of you're not always just getting money. Sometimes there's like arrows that maybe you're going to take this card instead of that card. Maybe it's
Right.
going to
Right.
give you like a charge that you can then spend on a future turn that gives you kind of an action that you can kind of use out of turn. There is, of course, the infamous "you win" card. So if you
Yes.
get enough charges on there, you can
You
just
win.
you win the game. But usually the game is won after I think 40 points. It's kind of a race. Once
That's
somebody gets
right.
to
It's
40
the end.
points, that's the game ends immediately, and or I guess you go through. Everybody gets even number of turns, but then you see who has the most points at that point. It takes maybe an hour or so. Your first game
Mm-hmm.
might take a little longer because you're trying to get some of the iconography down, but usually maybe an hour for a play, and it plays,
Yeah.
I think, out of the box up to 5 players, and then they have this an expansion that goes higher than that. But
Oh, cool.
but most of the play, a lot of the play is simultaneous, and you're you're getting stuff on everybody's turn. So if you're playing with a lot of players, by the time your turn comes around, you probably have a lot more income than you would if it comes around to a like a 3-player game, something like that. I think it
Yeah,
works.
that's true.
I enjoy it maybe with 4 players. I think
Okay.
sometimes I don't like to wait too long before it gets back to me, but I want there to be some turns before it gets back to me. So I
Hmm.
think somewhere in the middle I think works well for
Yeah,
me.
I can see how it would definitely benefit for having more players.
Hmm.
And I think I only played it 3-player. I
Okay.
played it 3 times 3-player, and then I played it with my husband 2-player, and
Mhm.
that it does suffer from that, where you
Yeah.
just don't have the opportunity to
Yeah.
glean as much from the other people's turn then.
Yeah. And there's a couple expansions for it that I would not say are you know, you like must gets. But one of them has some additional rules for like I can't remember what it's called, maybe like a warp speed variant, something like that, where at the beginning of the game you start with more cards tucked along the top.
Oh,
And so
okay.
you're starting the game. Oh, it almost feels like you're starting the game a couple turns in because you start with nothing at the top, and so it's like a really slow. The first couple turns,
It
if
ramps it up.
yeah, it ramps it up from the beginning, which I think I kind of prefer to play that way because it just kind of gets the game moving a little quicker.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
that makes
think
sense.
yeah, I love I don't know, the some of the risk taking. Sometimes you want to go all in on like one slot, trying to get, just hit real big on something. And sometimes you're trying to even things out. Sometimes you get some. I always like the ones that allow you to like swap spots. So if you get a
Mm-hmm.
card here and you get a card here, and then you get this one card that allows you to swap 2 cards, and so this one card that would have been in like the 12 slot, which is a really, as the cards, of course, the ones that roll the least are going to be more powerful. You get that one
Mm-hmm.
at a lower slot. So I always like to be able to manipulate those cards a little bit. And I don't know. They're like those little things that kind of feel like you're breaking the rules. I like that
Yeah,
those
that
kind of
is
special
really
powers in
fun.
games. And so that's
Yeah.
very present in Space Base, and all of the expansions add some more wrinkles and just tons of more cards and things like that. Even like the cadence of the game, because at the beginning of the game you're trying to maybe build up the coins and income,
Mm-hmm.
but then at some point in the game you want to start taking those cards that give you points, and
Yeah.
that's often what gets me because I
Like at
often
what
will.
point to switch?
Yeah, that I often will be I lose games because maybe I waited too long to get points, or somebody just got points earlier and was just like hitting on it a little
Yeah.
sooner. And you're usually like on any given turn you're scoring 3 points. Like you're not getting like hundreds of points every single turn. You're just getting a little bit,
No.
and you're just like, ticking up there slowly.
So Space Base, I liked very well. I had a great first run through, and then I played it 2-player with my husband. Like he was kind of like, oh, this, just um, he gets annoyed with the games that I like because he's like, these are basically games you could play solo, and it's like competitive solo playing. I feel like you said, it does have that Catan feel where things
Mhm,
are happening on each other's turns. So while there isn't a lot of player interaction,
mhm,
there is a group feel about it. Like
mhm.
your roles are going to affect what I can do and vice versa. It's just not my husband's favorite type of game,
Yeah,
which is fine. Too much of the same thing over and
yeah.
over. But he did like it though. He's like, I'd rather play this than some of your other games. But I thought it was very fun.
Hmm.
I really enjoyed it. I thought like the mechanics were super fun. Um, there is 1 or 2 cards though that all the cards seem pretty typical, or like kind of seem like they're on the same page, but then there's just this one card where all your opponents lose like 2,
I know.
and I'm like, what? Why is this in
I
here?
I almost I don't think I've thrown it out, but I think I might have it like tucked on the like not in the cards, like
It's not.
underneath the insert, kind of. Because
I
I
was
just
wondering
I
about that. It just seems so out of
it
left
feels like
field.
out of the spirit of the game. Like it doesn't feel like it belongs.
Yeah.
For
I
sure.
mean, the only other card that is akin would be like the you win card.
Hmm.
But that one is very difficult to
Yeah.
achieve, so it's a bit of a gamble to even
Yeah.
like try to do that one. But
I I
so
I have succeeded on it once.
oh really?
Once. Yes. I did one of
Was it
those
towards
like
the end of the game or was it like
yeah,
they
I
cut the game short?
no, I one of my friends was in the 30s. Like he was going to score like win the game any turn now. And I think I had scored under 10 points that entire game. Like I got that card super early and I was just hyper focused on swapping its place, getting arrows pointed to it. Like that's like the only thing I focused on the entire game. And I have had other games where I have not succeeded and I've scored 4 points the entire game because I'm trying to get that card
Oh
and then
my
I don't get
gosh.
it. And I still feel like, oh, I was so close. And everybody's like, you scored 4 points. And I was like, but look at this.
So close. You put
I
all
was
your eggs in the
I was
basket and
playing a
you're
different
just
game than you guys. Obviously, I had different rules.
That's really fun though because
Yeah,
it's a totally different strategy and you can win that way,
it
but you
is.
have
It
to
is
completely go in
and it's
all in for
not
it.
like because it starts off on like the 12 slot. So like if you do nothing, like there's, I mean, I'm sure that it is possible, but you're not going to get it without some sort of strategic maneuvering to do it. It's not like a random, I don't know. It's not like a flux or exploding kittens
Right, like
type
you
thing where
can't
you're just
rely
like,
on the luck for it to just
oh,
happen
I win. I got this card. It's not like that at all.
because you'd need like a 12 rolled like 5
On
times
your own turn. So
on your own
it's gonna,
turn. So that's very
yeah.
very
So
unlikely.
it's not going to happen unless you're actually trying to do it.
Or you have weighted dice or something,
Right.
but
Right.
but yeah, but I liked it. I really liked the
I'm glad.
like we talked about the player interaction and everything. I thought the artwork was cute. Like
Yeah.
I mean, it's the sort of game where it could have almost any theme, but I
Mm-hmm.
like the space theme. I thought it was quirky and worked
Yeah.
really well. I think the card sizes are fun. They're extra thin
Yeah.
and just kind of yeah,
They're like,
just
yeah.
kind of different. It
Mm-hmm.
had a different look and feel to it. So, on my channel, I always rate games with 6 pips. So
Okay.
I gave it 4 pips because I thought it was
That's
really,
great.
really
I
good.
think four
Yeah,
pips is great. I
yeah,
think, I mean, I think Space Base has some. I think I'm glad you got it taught to you because the rule book is not.
yeah,
It can be very difficult, and I think there's some, especially those like green actions on there, can be really tricky to wrap your head
yeah.
around at first.
Some
Um,
of them I just like if I don't know immediately what it is, I just don't draft those cards.
yeah,
I'm
and
like,
I think a lot of
oh,
people
there's
do
other
that.
options.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and but I think your husband's critique that you're doing the same thing every turn, I think is super valid because you are like it is very it could feel very repetitive
Right.
if it's not something you're into.
At this point I'm not planning to purchase
Hmm.
Space Base, but I will play it whenever someone offered like suggest it to me. It's like if my friend that own it moves away, I might have to buy my own copy,
There you go. I don't know if I've ever convinced somebody to buy it because I already own it.
but
And that we just play my copy and I play it a lot. I probably in in our hobby, and especially when you get to review games and you get to play different kinds of games all the time, I
hmm.
still play Space Base like 4 or 5 times a year.
Oh, that's great.
So
Yeah.
I still play. It's probably one of my most played games on a yearly basis. Um, just because like my friend,
It
it's
works
just like
out.
it's a really comfortable game for all of us. It's fun that
Yeah.
everybody really enjoys. So
Back to Manila. I wanted to ask you, so how was it finding it?
so I'll get give everybody some
When
behind the scenes. I gave Jonna gave me a list of games. I gave Jonna a list of games, and we got to kind of pick from that list. It wasn't just like you gotta hunt down this out of print game.
Right, right.
So of the list that she gave me, I was most attracted to Manila. I don't know when it originally came out. I think I have the newer reprint of it.
Yeah.
I have the 2014 edition, but I think it came out before that.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's from Zoc Spiel from Germany, and it looks like, so I started playing games in 2009. We didn't call it 2009 then. 2009, and it looked like a game that came out then. Like it looks very similar to some other game. It has kind of a very classic look to it in the art
Yeah.
style. And I think that's kind of what attracted me to it, because I haven't, games don't quite
I
look
just
like
like,
that anymore.
yeah, it's a
Yeah,
little
so
old school.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so I think that's what attracted me to it. And so I just honestly I went straight to the Board Game Geek. I did ask people I knew if anybody in kind of an extended friends of friends type of thing, because I'm usually the holder of the games in my game group. So my close friends I knew wouldn't have it because I didn't buy it for them. But because they don't play games themselves, why would they?
Right.
I'll just give it to them. But they the some extended game groups and see it, so if anybody had it, and I couldn't find it. So I went to the Board Game Geek marketplace, and I found a copy. It was brand new.
Oh, that's awesome.
I don't think it was in shrink wrap, but it had never been punched. So it was,
Oh,
yeah. So
cool.
I built the boats,
Oh, nice,
which was
nice.
really
Yeah.
cool, and it wasn't too expensive either. Like it didn't
Good.
feel like a like one of those out of print games that's going for like,
That was overpriced. Yeah.
no, I mean, I think it was under $50. Like
Oh,
wasn't too
good.
bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So
Yeah,
it was not hard to find. And honestly, the first person I messaged it, I spotted off that person. So it was an
Okay.
easy transaction too.
That's
So
great. And that's a great testimony for Board Game Geek. That's what you said it
yeah.
was, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the Board Game Geek marketplace. It was, I guess, it was a individual sold it to me.
Okay.
It wasn't one of those stores.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I had some trouble. We had a little bit of trouble finding ours. We ended up buying it on the German Amazon.
Okay.
But I mean, it was affordable. I just was a little concerned. I wasn't sure if you'd be able to get it, because when we bought it, it was like there was only a few left,
Yeah.
and it was like, I don't know. So I'm really glad you were able
If
to
I
find it.
hadn't been able to find it, I would have picked a different game.
Yeah.
And we'd have a different conversation now. But I think it wasn't. Yeah, it was surprisingly easy to find.
Okay.
Which I think is a testament to Board Game Geek, but also just, I think a lot of times people get worried when a game is like not currently in stores, and I
Yeah.
think you can find it. Like it's going to be somewhere.
Right. Yeah. And it's good to know that those games are out there, that they're still interesting, and like,
Mhm.
not even if it's not like brand spanking new. I'm always curious to see like what those older games are that maybe I kind of missed before I got into the
Mhm.
hobby. So how was it getting to the table? Were you able to find people who were interested in playing it with you, or how did that go?
So I'll admit it wasn't super easy to get played,
Okay.
which is kind of funny because I was attracted to it because it looks kind of like a, old school kind of classic game, which I kind of dig. But so it was also, we're still kind of in a pandemic, so
Yeah.
it's a game that is 3 to 5 players. There's no like solo, it's not one of
Yeah,
those.
it was before the solo for
Right.
every game
Right.
movement.
So I honestly, my game group is usually just like a couple that comes over once a week, and the three or four of us play a game depending on who shows up and who's tired and not. And so we're often playing other games because it was just kind of like people just weren't super into it.
Yeah.
But we went away with some friends to beach for a long weekend and just brought a ton of games, and we played it.
You pulled it.
We played
Good.
it for the first time. It was all good. And so I think we ended up playing with 3, which I don't think is ideal from what I was reading in the rules. But Manila had a lot of really cool parts, and whenever you were talking about it, you started with like that boat section where you're
Hmm.
putting your people on these boats, and then the boats are moving up the river. And I think that is that is what, for me, that was the most interesting part of the game. I think some of the like the stock market part was kind of cool and showing kind of the value of those boats as they're moving up. But I think moving the boats up, because there's that tension of whether the boats are going to make it to port or the boats are going to kind of get damaged and go to the other part, I think was really cool. And then also having the fluctuating values of the boats, and then also the different, because each boat can only hold so many players, and so you receive, you could even double down on certain boats,
Yeah.
but you receive an equal portion of the value of the boat once it gets to port. And so yeah, so you can double down on it. Maybe everybody wants a little piece of that, and everybody's kind of split the pot evenly. I think that was definitely the most interesting part of the game, and I really did enjoy that. I think there were a couple things that I didn't super enjoy, and I think it's just funny because I think they were parts that you like, the parts that you really loved about it.
Like the pirates.
Well, I will say the pirates didn't show up as often as I was kind of thinking they would.
Okay.
Every time I played, it was always like a risk of the pirates coming, and you're like,
Yeah.
and it never quite got there. I think there were just enough turns throughout my plays of me not feeling like I got very much, like having like a successful turn, like at the end of the turn, feeling like I got something or I did something, because it's
Yeah.
very possible that, yes, I'm on this boat, I'm going to be on this dock, I'm going to be over here for the insurance or something like that. And then that boat didn't quite, other people got on that
Make it
boat,
in.
and then it didn't quite get to, the high value where I wanted it to go. And so I only got a little bit. And then I'm over here waiting for something to fail. And then this one failed, but I'm on the second dock, so that one didn't get anything.
Oh
And so,
no.
so
So
I
you just
think,
had
yeah, so I think
bad luck.
I think some of it was luck. I think sometimes players are just, when you're playing a game, you're out for yourselves. You're not, you're trying to do what's best for you. And so it's not like a drafting game. You're like hate drafting, like purposely hurting each other, but everybody else is playing to help themselves, which
Right.
on the reverse side of that card or that coin is, not optimal for you. And so I think there were just enough turns that it kind of felt like, oh, you just kind of like sigh. You're like, oh, I don't really. It didn't feel like I lost a turn, but sometimes it was just like that turn was
Yeah.
just not as much fun. And but I think there's like, I think if you're into that, like it sounds like you really love that kind of part, that the risk reward type of thing.
Yes.
Which is interesting because I think Space Base has a similar air, like a similar
Yeah.
cloud around it. And I don't even know if I felt like I have more control in Space Base, because
No.
it is simply just roll the luck of the dice.
Yeah, it
Um,
is.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I just felt like there were enough turns in Manila where I just didn't like get very much that kind of kept me like, oh yeah, this is really cool. I got this, I can do this now. It just it didn't feel like it had that.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
it's
that's understandable.
it's an
Yeah.
interesting game. And I remember as I was reading through the rules, I was like, these boat like, and I remember like going to my wife like, you like, there's these boats and they go up these spaces, and then sometimes they succeed and you get to catch them out, and some like it was just such a cool idea as I was reading through it. And then in practice, also really cool, but some of the other spaces around the edges of the board that are kind of more that high risk, high reward kind of parts,
Mhm.
didn't super like
Y-
connect or like resonate with
Yeah.
me.
Did people try to do the spots where you can manipulate the position of the boat? There's like the one spot
Hmm.
where you go in it and you can move the boat either forward or backward, one or two spots.
Yes, I do.
Did
And
that happen a lot in your plays?
I think so. And I think some of that
Okay.
was maybe hurting me.
Mhm.
Like I think like other
It
people were
can
getting those spots, and then they were,
messing
manipulating things
around.
against me.
Hmm.
So yeah,
It's
it's just how it goes. That's
yeah,
just how the game is played. I can't. Yeah.
yeah. I think your feelings are totally fair.
Yeah.
I've had games like that where like I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, this is gonna be so much fun, and then just turn after turn, it
Hmm.
doesn't quite pan out,
Yeah.
and there isn't a whole lot, like, because the more you bet on the wrong thing, just
Hmm.
like less and less happens because then you
Yeah.
have less money to,
Hmm.
bid to be the harbor master,
Yeah.
and that is really
The harbor
key
master is a
for,
really key part of it, and
yeah.
I also remember in the first game, and I wish like maybe I had played through it by myself first or something to kind of nail down like how important the harbor master was in the first game.
Hmm.
This is one of those things because you auction off harbor master as the first thing of the game, and if people don't quite realize what the harbor like how important the
What that
harbor
does.
master is, somebody can like get off pretty quick
Yeah,
off the
and just
starting block.
run away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So.
true. The first time I played it, someone had taught me, and he had
Mhm.
had like the original game from years ago. And so he was experienced, he knew exactly how to teach us.
Mhm.
And I think it was a 5-player game.
Mhm.
And it just had a very roller coaster feel where
Mhm.
someone would really get ahead and then they would lose everything, and then the
Mhm.
next round they were making all these risky choices because they had nothing to lose, and then they ended up winning. It was just like filled with all these twists and turns, and it was the most fun I had ever had
Yeah,
playing
and I
just
think
a game.
and I
But
could
it can go the other way, like you
mhm.
said.
I've only been able to play it with 3 players, and I can tell it's feels like it would be optimal with 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I wish
so
I would have thought about that a little bit more
yeah,
and maybe give you some more direction in that regard. But
yeah, it's
all
fine.
right. Well, I'm glad to hear like you did get to play it, and I think that's totally a fair
Yeah,
criticism.
and I don't regret hunting it down. I thought it was a cool game. I'm glad I can chat about it now with people.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was Manila.
Okay.
I'd say for me it was a 6 out of 10.
Oh, well, that's pretty good.
I
I mean,
I
like
enjoyed
for
it. Yeah,
not,
I mean, I enjoyed
yeah,
it,
yeah.
on
I'm
my
sorry you didn't have like
it's
the
fine.
experience I did, but I guess you just can never tell how
You
it's
never
gonna
know.
go with certain
Yeah, you
people.
never know.
I was thinking about our collaboration. I was like, it's really interesting to compare these two games because of Space Base being more like you're messing around with the luck. You're trying to manipulate
Mhm.
the luck to your benefit to make an engine to climb those tracks, and it does feel more. Um, I don't know if strategic's the right word, but you have a little bit more to work with.
Yeah.
Where Manila is more gut action, like gut reaction to what is happening,
Mhm.
and not necessarily making the most strategic choices.
Right. Yes.
So I hope you guys enjoyed hearing our critique of these two very different games that, kind of are in the same realm,
Yeah.
but still very different. Um, Make sure you check out Jordan's YouTube channel, Jordan Plays Blue, and you're also on Instagram. He has a really cool Instagram account,
Yeah.
and you're always posting stuff there. So it's cool because I don't know, are there a lot of board game content creators on Instagram?
There's a ton, and I am not one of the big ones. I I am solidly middle of the pack. But yeah, there's a
That's
lot of
okay.
really cool. Instagram's really good for photography, of course. So if you're into, I am not a photographer, but there's a lot of
But your
really
pictures are nice. I think you always present
thanks,
everything
thanks.
really well.
I use an iPhone for everything, so but there's some real like legit photographers there that do really cool stuff, and I just kind of follow from a distance, and I do like actual I try to do like reviews on Instagram, so it has a photo, but also a 1 minute video, and also some like text with some bullet points and things like that, so you can just kind of swipe it and go on your way. So that's kind of the main kind of content that I do with some photos thrown in there as well.
Very cool. So
Yeah.
is your handle just Jordan Plays Blue on Instagram? It's all the same.
Everything is
Okay.
at or slash Jordan Plays Blue.
Very good. Well, definitely check out his stuff. It's really fun, and I always appreciate your perspective on games, Jordan, because I have kids and I like family weight games too.
Mhm.
So you cover the good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye-bye. You're a frequent, what is it? Wait, you're a frequent submitter. That's not the right word.
Contributor.
Yes.
I think it's the tricky, but I got it. We're good. Didn't look super exciting, I think.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I just need a drink.
You got emotional there. I'm sorry. It's not you didn't do the painting. You're okay.
No.
It's fine art.
That's so funny.
It's really great.
You know, I
It's
don't
really
know why
great.
I'm like choking on myself, but